Welcome to PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, or PUBs for short, do's and don'ts by guns. First off, why should you listen to my opinion of do's and don'ts in this game? I like to give you guys a reason to respect my thoughts compared to most of the people. I do this in Siege, where I've played Plat multiple seasons, and I'll do this here. Top 300 players overall in solos, I'm in top 200 in duos, and in squads we got up to number 36 last night in just 4 hours, where most people that high have over 10 hours. I do plan to try to hit top 10 with that this weekend. We work pretty well as a group. But let's go ahead and get on to the do's and don'ts of pubs. Do use cars early in the game, and the cars of the C kind, not the K kind. You can use the K kind of cars throughout the entire game. Early in the game, cars are great to move around in, to get you inside the circle and give yourself nice positioning. Don't use cars late in the game. As the circle gets smaller, they attract a lot of attention, and it's not something you want to be in constantly. A large object like a car with multiple people left in it is going to draw a lot of fire and a lot of attention to you late in the game, and people late in the game tend to have a lot of ammo and firepower to just lay into the car with really no consequences, resulting in things like this.
Ow. I think you got him.
And that's what that's for.
Alright, looting. One more in the house to the left.
There was one to our right. I don't know what happened to him.
Oh wow, you blew up both of those guys.
Yep. Things like that, running around in a car in that late game when the circle is so small. He was getting shot from Tex, myself, and two of the guys down the hill. Now, that's not to say you can't use cars to quickly get across an open field during final circles, and in fact, you should, because crossing open fields during the final circle, with a few circles left, tend to be death sentences. Getting inside circles as quickly as possible and into cover tends to be better for you, even at the risk of drawing initial attention to your location. Your positional advantage will usually make you win the fight if you get to it. Which brings us to our next do's and don'ts. Do consider positioning in everything that you do. Don't run wildly into open spaces assuming you're going to make it. This is a much more tactical game than H1Z1, as people have come to find out. Patience tends to be rewarded. Intelligent players tend to hold positions just inside the circle and move up along with the wall to their backs, so they have one less direction to worry about and can keep looking forward into their sides. This means if you're running in an open field ahead of the circle, you'll most likely get shot. However, early and safe movement deep inside the circle can be extremely beneficial. You'll end up playing the waiting game, as people tend to move into your line of fire as the circle gets smaller. Both tactics are valid, and both have their pros and cons. Things to consider when doing this is the path the plane dropped everyone across. Along that path is a radius of how far players could have potentially skydived. These are the hot zones in the start of the game. They tend to be where players migrate from into the circle. Considering this when setting up a position inside the circle, this gives you a good idea of where most of the players are going to come from. Keyword is most. In this clip, which I'm going to speed up because it's fairly lengthy, we circle all the way around the circle to the back of Military Island. This is not the conventional way people tend to do things. However, we do run into two separate groups and engage in a large firefight. We come out on top. Overall, there were probably 10 people on the back end of this island that started to move this way. Now, you have to consider, we did fly over Military Island, so people could have dropped here and moved to the back to begin with. But out of almost 40 people alive, only 10 were here. That left about 28 people on the northern side of the island, or to the north of us. And people tend to play more tactically when you play in fours, so this is more likely to happen in fours and in duos than it is in solos. It still happens there, just less often. People don't like taking the risk of going out of their way when they may not make it into the circle or run into a group they were unaware of. This is why your positioning is important when considering everything: where people drop, where you're going to move, where you're going to hold up, and where you're going to move to next. You always want to look at your map and find out where the buildings are and where the hills are to give you cover as you move deeper into the circle from one position to the other. Speaking of cover, do use hills as cover. Don't stand on top of them. When you have to run because of a lack of vehicle, you're going to be exposed. You'll need to consider how you're going to move through the environment. You need to do it quickly but safely. basically running non-stop just to get inside the circle. We've all been in that situation. Now, using hills as cover applies to this, but also general combat. If you're standing on top of a hill, you are easily silhouetted on the top of the hill, and you're pretty much visible in all 360 degrees. However, if you're staying below the ridge and in third person, you can still see over the top of the hill onto the other side in most cases, and you're giving yourself decent cover. You're only being exposed on one side of the hill. If you're well camoed, you can also be hard to see moving alongside the hill. You can also use peaks of hills to see targets and slowly peek them over top and shoot them, revealing very little of yourself. Crest, hills, ditches, and other land formations can be great for natural cover. However, people don't do this as often as you'd think. Here's a great example of solos of me using this small hillside, and when I say small, it's small, to stay out of everybody's view in this final circle. Nobody has any idea where I'm at. There were over 10 people in this circle when it started, and they slowly killed each other all the way down to the last 2 people, myself and the guy in front of me. Now, because of my positioning with my back to the coastline, and I used that to push up, I knew I was safe behind me, and I had cleared out my right-hand side because I came from that direction. Now, of course, people can move, so you always want to keep your eyes open, but in general, I had a fairly nice setup for myself here, and this left me to just bide my time and wait till I had a clear shot of the last few people. The thing is, this position would have won me the game regardless of if I had an M249, or a car silenced with an 8x scope, or a UMP. The guy had no idea where I was, he was completely oblivious. I had shot several people at this time because I had a silenced car, which is, silenced weapons are great. But I had kept myself hidden inside this field with a ghillie suit and inside this hillside the entire time. Land features like this are all around the map. Use them as often as you can and use them wisely. Do prioritize ammo over meds. Don't take unnecessarily large amounts of ammo over meds. Unless you're going to get into a massive firefight and you know it, which you don't need some 200 rounds of ammo. Around 150 to 180 is pretty comfortable, unless you're using an M249B, in which case, yes, you can take some 300 rounds with you, but you tend to have a level 3 backpack by that point because you've been raiding crates. 150 and 180 rounds is a comfortable number in which you can engage in most firefights and come out alive with a few kills and still have enough ammo for another firefight, picking up more off the bodies as you move along if necessary. Now, if you have 150 to 180 rounds, you also have a lot of room for meds, meaning you can heal in between all these fights and pre-med yourself between all these fights, meaning you can still move from one fight to the next with full health and scavenge ammo along the way. However, if you don't have enough meds, like energy drinks, painkillers, first aid kits, medical kits, bandages are in the lesser of the meds, but still bandages, they can come in handy in a pinch. You won't have enough health to live through the next fight regardless. This one is kind of a common sense thing. It also allows you to pre-med and live through several circles, final circles, and closing walls, taking ticks outside of the wall in those last couple of closing circles, which can be highly advantageous for position. If you're able to run outside the wall, most people aren't going to be looking for it or expecting it, and can give you great flanking position if you pop a Red Bull, painkillers, and medkit beforehand and you walk around outside behind them and come up right behind them through the circle. Do pick up smoke grenades. Don't pick up flash grenades. Okay, so this one is a little odd. Honestly, you can pick up flash grenades, 1 or 2 of them if you want to, but their use is far more limited than smoke and frags. For instance, Tex had 5 smoke grenades, and he uses it here to cover himself and Raven as they move down the hill from 2 other enemies that are shooting down at them. They end up winning this game because of this cover they created along the hill. These guys had easy shots on them, and with the smoke they were able to get away. Without the smoke, they more likely would have been killed just by getting in the vehicle alone. It can create great cover and be a distraction for you as well. You can throw it in random directions and have people looking in that direction thinking you're trying to move from there. They may try to even shoot through the smoke, and this will give you an advantage in trying to figure out where they're at. Flashes, like I said, you can pick up 1 or 2 of them, but they only really work in close quarters, and they have a short fuse time, so if you're trying to throw it high across somebody over in the field to flash them behind a tree, it tends to go off before it even reaches them. They can be used very effectively in close quarters, inside buildings in particular, but half the time they just give you away as it tends to go off pretty close to you. Like I said, they tend to work better in urban environments, inside buildings and things like that. So if the circle's going to end inside a city, a flash or two may not be a bad idea, especially if you want to pop flash outside a door before you start running out of it. That can blind any enemies that are nearby and stalking you. Do take your time while driving. Don't let guns drive.
On the rocks next to me, it's actually.
Yep.
Yeah. Shit, this is gonna be a problem.
God damn it, guns.
I'm sorry.
You had one job.
Right next to us.
Oh.
This one's pretty basic. Take your time while driving and always drive with caution. Taking your time and making sure you don't hit trees goes a long way in keeping you alive. Let off the gas coming over hills, avoid large jumps, try to avoid crests and little dips in the terrain. The last thing you want to be is out in the open with a flipped car, unless you're Tex.
A little bit more. I just need the head.
Please no level 3 one time.
Yes!
Oh.
Got him!
Oh my god!
This is amazing.
Those are some basic do's and don'ts, guys. A few more common tips, just common knowledge tips. A damaged helmet is better than no helmet. Damaged armor is better than no armor. Always upgrade your backpacks. Try to carry only one ammo type, so like use a car and an AKM, or have an M16 and an M4, so you're only carrying 5.56. That means you can carry twice as much 5.56 as opposed to having to split ammo types. Later on in the game, your pistol's not really needed. You can ditch its ammo, maybe leave a clip in it for some extra space.
Moving up to the fence.
Silencers, while they do decrease the damage, they are great for confusing the fuck out of your enemies as opposed to where they're getting shot from. Go for crates more. I hardly see people going for crates as it is. If it's dropping off way in the distance and you're thinking, I'm not going to go for that, go for it, because everyone else is looking at it and thinking, that's so far out, by the time I get to it, it'll be gone. So go for it. You'll more than likely actually get it. And if it's an AWM or an M249B or an M24, you've got yourself a great round-winning weapon right there, especially in the AWM and the M24 and the M249B. The close quarter circles, 100 rounds, superior fire rate. You know, plus they tend to have level 3 armor, level 3 backpacks, level 3 helmets, adrenaline shots, 8x scopes.
Yeah, but when are you gonna reload?
Use your audio properly. I mean, if you're running down a hill and you hear shots to your left or your right, or they sound like they're coming a little bit behind you, assume somebody's behind you and assume they can see you and play that to your advantage. You always want to assume, especially with sound in this game, because if you don't, it can bite you in the ass really big, really quickly. Like I said, guys, those are some basic tips. If you enjoyed these basic tips and you want more, feel free to leave a comment down below and like the video, letting me know what you would like to see more of in these tips. What kind of other information are you looking for? And let me know down below if you have any other comments or you feel like I left anything out that are pretty obvious in terms of things you should do and should not do in Battlegrounds. If enough people like the video and share it, I'll be certain to come up with some more tips for another video that I feel is worth your time watching. I want to give you guys actual information that will help you win games, not just waste your time. If you're new to the channel, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Come watch me stream all the action live over at twitch.tv/GUNZGAMES. If you'd like to support the channel directly, you can help us grow over at patreon.com. Clickable on the screen now for you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm Guns. Good luck out there. I'll see you later.